Hello, I'm John Constantine, and you're watching the latest edition of the Airport Insider from Airports Council International, North America. With me today is AJ Muldoon, Director of Policy and Regulatory Affairs, here to speak about the state of the aviation industry. AJ joined us in 2005 with a Bachelor of the Arts degree in Political Science from George Washington University. Since then, he's completed important policy work on the FAA reauthorization, passenger facility charges, and the Airport Improvement Programme. Good morning, AJ.
Good morning.
So, let me ask you, in terms of growth, how did the industry fare in 2011?
In 2011, the industry basically treaded water. Passenger numbers were up only about 1.3% over 2010. We did see some fairly significant growth at the beginning of the year, but over the course of the year, the trend was downward. International traffic, which had been a strong driver of growth in the 3 to 5% range, also slowed and was only about 1.7% over the course of the year. And if you look on a global scale, we've seen that North America has had a much smaller share of the overall growth as compared to other regions such as Europe and the Middle East and Asia.
And how is 2012 looking so far?
Well, we don't know actual passenger numbers quite yet, but what we do know based on the schedules that the airlines have published so far, capacity is going to continue to be cut. Looking at April, all hub sizes in the U.S. are going to see pretty significant reductions, anywhere from about 1% in the large hubs up to as much as 5% in some of the medium and small hub markets. Looking forward to the summer, July, we're seeing pretty much the same thing. And again, this is mainly being driven by the rising cost of fuel and carriers trying to hedge that. In July, we're seeing right now that the large hubs will probably about hold even, but again, the smaller markets are going to see a pretty significant cut.
Okay, and following on from that, what would you say is the key issue facing the aviation industry?
As I mentioned, it's probably fuel prices are the big story, as it is for pretty much all consumers right now. In 2011, fuel prices were high, but they were relatively stable. We had these sort of competing supply and demand dynamics where we had the Arab Spring and other disruptions in the Middle East that put pressure on the supply side. However, with the ongoing concerns in the Eurozone and other economies about growth, that put some downward pressure as there wasn't going to be as much demand. However, going into 2012, we've seen a recovery in the United States, and a lot of the concerns about the Eurozone countries seem to be alleviating. So that downward pressure might be relieved, and we could see continued escalation in fuel prices.
Okay, well, that leads on to my last question. How do you think consolidation has reshaped the industry in the last 10 years or so?
Well, I'd say a lot of it has been driven by cost pressures, which again is mainly comes from fuel prices. And if you look at the numbers, the industry today is significantly smaller in terms of capacity than it was just 10 or 12 years ago. If you look at 2000, the top 5 carriers in the U.S. controlled about 63% of the market share, whereas today, where we've seen the mergers of Delta and Northwest, United and Continental, Southwest, and AirTran, those top 5 carriers now control about 82% of the market. And with the reduced capacity we've seen from the capacity cuts, as well as less competition with the result of all these mergers, that's led to a lot of pricing power for the carriers, and that's given them the ability to raise fares. And so what we've seen over the past 7 quarters for which we have data available is that the carriers have been able to increase fares greater than 5% on a year-over-year basis over that period.
Thank you. And that concludes our glimpse at the industry from Airports Council International North America. We hope you enjoyed it and watch this space for further updates. Thank you, AJ.
Welcome.